It's really nice.
Okay, did everybody pair up? Is anybody left out? Did you guys actually talk to each other? Cool. We don't really have time for a lot of it, but it's sort of right away a different thing than just listening to me, however entertaining I may sometimes become. Let's take a kind of smattering of things. I actually paired up with Katie way up there, and she had some very interesting things. What I find is that when people take education courses, they start to really nail this down. Or when you end up teaching a course that turns into an education course and you didn't realize it, like the one that I taught where I encountered fraud. So anybody who thinks they have something particularly brilliant or particularly stupid to say, raise your hand. Nobody. Okay, so yes?
Well, we were just saying it's expanding your horizons, open up your mind to new information, new knowledge.
So expansion and incorporating new knowledge. Yes, what's your name?
Matt.
Still Matt. What was your name?
Oh, Hallie.
Hallie.
It's fundamentally the fundamental difference between instruction and learning is that the prior process is focused around the teacher mostly, and the learning process is mostly focused around the student.
Okay, so the thing that you guys came to is mostly the center of activity and purpose. And that's one of the things. I mean, you all can refer to this and you'll find that it's a really good summary of the differences and the characteristics that comes from that bar and tag. Yes, Ben.
Learning is the interpretation of knowledge or materials.
So Ben's adding something to it, which is that there has to be more than just taking it in like an empty vessel. Did you have something to say?
Mine is similar to his. I'm Julie.
Julie.
Yeah, and I see learning as a means to an end. Like it allows you to do something or allows you to have an understanding that makes you interactive with it.
Right. In other words, Julie's adding from her group that the key to learning is that it makes a difference. It isn't just knowledge or information. You have that at the internet level or the phone book, but there's a purpose to it. And that suggests that when you try to shift to learning, you should set a purpose beforehand, even if you accomplish something else, as happens in research. Yes, what's your name?
Jackson.
Yes.
And I was thinking that learning is discovering new ways for the learner to interact with and explore a particular field of knowledge, and that can be like classic ones like things like psychology and science, but then it could also be like more practical ones like learning like new ways to build a house or learning new ways to like pick berries and stuff like that.
So if I can, I guess you can all hear everyone, so you know. So you can do your own summary. Jackson emphasized new in what I said. Katie had an additional point when the two of us talked. Did you want to? Okay. Katie? You think they can hear you?
Maybe.
I think so.
Do we need to say the whole thing?
No, just say the key part.
Oh, okay. So a lot of the things you guys have said I agree with, and from my personal experience, especially with a class that I'm taking this semester, I think the most important part for learning is self-reflection and like reflecting on things that you do or experience, and that might be like a class, that might be a subject you learn, it might be like how to balance an equation, or it might be something that that just happens to you, and that your self-reflection is the most important part, and sometimes you have to voice that reflection and share with a group, but sometimes it can just be like a personal experience.
Yeah, that's a theme that actually runs through some of the other things that you talked about. If you're learning, you actually should make sure you know what you've done and that you've learned and what you've learned, and one of the ways is to share with other people. Katie brought that to me from her current course on experiential education that she's taking with respect to outdoor education. Is anybody here planning to become a teacher or educator or learning facilitator? Kelly will someday. Katie, Matt, Tom. Okay. So Joan has 800 pizzas here. So, yeah, you all know there's a pizza party at the end, right?
That's why it gets really.
That's why. So the next section, Lynn, would you like to say something? Okay, next section are the people who brought examples. We didn't actually think about the order, but these are Hampshire folks who graciously volunteered to come and use their own case as an example of the learning paradigm, or of learning. Do you want to go first, or do you? We forgot to make an order. Tom.
Hi, I'm Tal. I'm a Div 3, and I'm going to talk about my sort of immediately previous experience. That was the end of Div 2 for me. My Div 2 was science communication, and I thought that the best way to learn to communicate science would be to learn to do science. So with the help of Chris, who is on my committee,
Chris in the back is the Dean of the School of Natural Science.
And he's waving his hands. With the help of Chris, I found an internship at the National Cancer Institute, where I did lab research for 6 months, from March through August, I guess 5 months. And while doing the research, which was learning doing science, I also wrote about it, which was learning to communicate what I was learning. And it was a lot of fun, and I actually learned lots, whatever that means. And the thing that I learned most of all was that I don't want to be a research scientist. And so from that, I also learned that you can get lots of t-shirts from being in the right place in the right time. This is a research festival that was on the base that I was working at. This is the summer internship program t-shirt. And I have lots of films. I was doing molecular biology, and I was looking particularly at protein interactions with DNA. So the way that you look at that information, you can't actually see this in a microscope. So the way that you look at that information is you have films, basically, that you make the protein appear, like you tag it with some light-producing stuff, so that when you put it in a photo developer, where there is that protein will light up and will show on the film. So I have a lot of films here.
We're going to
For
pass them
example,
around.
you can see that spot. That is the protein that I was looking for, though this was not a very good film. These are all bad films because I had to give my good films in my laboratory notebook, which they kept. But I can pass these around.
Why don't we pass a few on this way? I just realized that these are going to be very short presentations, so during the pizza party part of it, if there's some particular student whose presentation, oh, I did a good job.
That's okay. They're not valuable anymore.
Pass them down. You want to tell what the name of this test is?
Oh, this test to be able to look at proteins is called a Western blot. It's named that way because some scientist whose last name was either Northern or Eastern or Southern, developed a similar test for looking at DNA. So looking at protein interactions, they called it a Western blot.
This thing.
Sort of after him doing the same sort of method.
Okay, so we're not going to have time for question and answers for these dudes, but you can, if this kind of thing, or if there's some detail that you want to learn about with respect to these films intrigues you, then come up during the pizza party part of it and talk to Bob.
You're just giving us trash.
Yes, this is the detritus of science research, but since he learned he